to This is Movies, a podcast about the act of cinema. With me today is Hans, who
Yes.
just fittingly changed his background to the famous actors associated with Lethal Weapon and the Lethal Weapon franchise.
Yeah. That's what we're talking about today. The Lethal Weapon series with Damon Wayans and that guy. I don't know who the guy is.
Clayton McLean, I believe his name is.
Yeah. Is that real?
I don't know. I think his name's Clayton. Anyway, we got Jerry back on the show. Jerry, how you doing?
Hey, what up? How are you?
Doing
Johnny Galecki.
fantastic. Johnny Galecki in Lethal Weapon. Who would you pair with Johnny Galecki in Lethal Weapon?
Who would you
What
what?
is the question?
If Johnny Galecki is the Mel Gibson, who would you cast alongside him for the reboot?
Who? I don't know who Johnny Galecki is.
It's the kid from 16 Candles.
Okay.
No, it's
All
not.
right.
Is
Okay.
it 16 Candles? I don't know.
Okay. All
No,
right.
that's Ducky. Whatever.
That
That's
was
the guy
John
from
Cryer.
Big Bang Theory.
He's a
Yeah.
good like 15 years older than Johnny Galecki.
Yeah, he plays bald guy now, right?
He plays
'Cause
Lex
he
Luthor
stopped wearing a
on
wig.
Supergirl. Yeah.
Johnny Galecki is from Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory,
Yeah.
Roseanne.
Roseanne.
And-
That's where I know. That's where I know him from.
He might have been in Coneheads or some movie like that. I feel like he definitely played the boyfriend in some teen comedy film in the early 90s or late 80s.
Let's just do this episode about Johnny Galecki, but we can only talk about what we know about him. We're not allowed to look up anything else. But we have to do it for an hour.
I think that's a fantastic plan. Hans, what is your favorite Johnny Galecki moment?
When he tries to get pussy in Big Bang Theory and he doesn't.
It's just like I like the whole series.
That's all I know from his character. That he's always trying to like get with a girl and the girl doesn't or does. I don't know.
I hate that like I actually legitimately watched the first maybe 2 or 3 seasons of that show on DVD a lot because I just acquired them somehow right whenever I first moved into like the first home that I moved into with my fiance several years ago. And that's all we had was like The Office, a few seasons of The Office, a few seasons of The Big Bang Theory, and a handful of fucking movies. So we would just constantly watch essentially those 4 or 5 things over and over and over. So I saw a lot of Big Bang Theory early on. I hate the knowledge that I have of that content.
Okay. Well, what's your favorite?
What's
Johnny
your
Galecki
favorite
moment?
Johnny Galecki moment?
Big Bang Theory.
Damn, that sucks because
There's so many.
It's so hard to choose.
because I actually have to think now, and I remember thinking it was funny an episode.
Is it the one when he gets something about Star Trek wrong?
No, I think that happened a lot. I think he would be
Oh.
partially incorrect, and fucking the giraffe dude would be like, "Nah, this other thing."
What's his name? Spencer? No, what is it?
Spencer Confidential.
Yes.
Are you
Big
talking
Bang
about
Theory starring
Jim
Mark Wahlberg.
Parsons? Yeah.
Yeah, Jim Parsons.
I just watched him in a Netflix movie that's a remake of a William Friedkin film called The Boys in the Band. And it's just a gay party that's held in the 1960s.
That's the whole thing.
That's essentially the whole thing. It's Jim Parsons being kind of an asshole to people.
Does he just play that same character that he plays on
He's
everything?
playing himself. That's himself,
Yeah.
Hans.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with, we've covered a Jim Parsons movie before, all three of us. The extremely wicked, shockingly vile
That's
Zac
right.
Efron movie. He was
Oh,
the
yeah.
attorney
That's
in
right.
that.
He actually was pretty good in that because he just was an asshole, like an asshole attorney, and that's kind of the role, right?
A gay asshole.
The way he said it is weird.
So, Lethal Weapon's a movie by Richard Donner. He directed Superman. He directed The Goonies. He is one of the big blockbuster directors for Warner Brothers of the 1980s era, and I suppose late 70s. This script was written by Shane Black, who is the master of the buddy cop genre. He would later go on to do The Nice Guys and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Predator,
and
The Predator, was it
Mm-hmm.
the fourth Predator movie? I have not seen that. I've heard mixed to negative things about it.
It's like one of those things where it could be a lot fucking worse, knowing how remakes and 30-year-old sequels can be. It could be a lot worse. So I think that I don't know. Jake might also agree with this. I think that it's kind of like, okay, at least it didn't fucking go way off the fucking rails. This is more tolerable than I thought it was going to be. So you might give it like better marks. But if you were going in there at all with a different idea, where you're just like, I'm expecting good, you're probably going to come out not enjoying it. I was just expecting a lot worse.
I mean, do you consider Predators, the Adrian Brody, Topher Grace starring
Ugh.
pseudo reboot, worse than that film?
I
Yeah,
never saw that.
yeah. That
Yeah,
that to
worse?
me was pretty bad. I thought. I mean, it's not. Maybe they're not worse. Maybe they're kind of like similar in that it's really going to be more based on how you go into it. I think, generally speaking, I'm not like a super nostalgia hog or whatever, so I generally don't give a shit whenever a remake or a reboot is, excuse me, super bad. But I think I disliked that one more than I disliked the Shane Black one.
Well, I mean, what did you dislike about that one? I thought it was pretty standard action fare for. I mean, I didn't really have any expectations. So, in fairness, maybe if you're a big Predator fan, then that could definitely fall short. I don't think it's a particularly good movie, and I think Topher Grace is kind of embarrassing in it, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Also, Lawrence Fishburne is kind of weird in that movie. He's just fat and sneaky.
That's I guess a good way to describe him in that film. I don't I don't really know if I could articulate so many years removed what I disliked about it. Um I think that I felt that it was sort of generic. It's kind of more of an older action sort of setup, maybe like a early 2000s action film, more than it is in like the most recent thing. Now action films are like fucking jumping cars out of helicopters and quadruple backflips and the superhero holding onto a helicopter. Like, it's the weirdest fucking shit in comparison. And that's a lot more, I would say, reserved in those aspects. More akin to like a 2007 type action film. But I don't know. I just I was never really a like big into it. I don't know. I'd seen it maybe like two or three times since it came out, and I just feel like, comparatively speaking, in my brain, I think I liked it less than the Shane Black one. But I kind of know that they're both bad.
All right, fair enough. I mean, it felt like I think in retrospect, it's kind of like a prototype to Suicide Squad, where you
Mm-hmm.
have like all the bad guys are trapped on this particular planet, and then they got to do this and that. They got to figure out a way to survive, and oh, it's a
Wasn't that
twist. Topher
also
Grace is a serial killer. Wow.
Stone Cold's movie where they're in an island, they have to fight
They
to the
just took the
death?
concept of battle royale for that movie, which I
Yeah.
think is called The Condemned, and they put
Yes, it's
Stone
great.
Cold as the lead.
It's so bad. It's great.
Here's what I
Uh,
remember about that movie is you are getting introduced to the character for the first time. He's in his prison cell. He's in the shadows, and you see his hand, and he has a butterfly, and it's sparkling, and then it just flies away. He's got beauty in his hand, and he's a
yeah,
gentleman when he wants to
that's
be.
right.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Fucking great. So much that's three-dimensional character. That's what I'm talking about.
well, I
um,
definitely did that thing in that one where they had like the Asian dude is the samurai ninja, right? Like, I thought that was. I always think that's fucking strange. Whenever they're like the what? Okay, our one Asian guy. What is he? What is he? Oh, he's a fucking samurai. No, he's an ancient Chinese warrior. That's the dude that we're bringing in. Like, I mean, I get it
What
for
do you
like your
what do
story,
you want to
but I
do?
mean,
Capoeira? You want to do a fucking
they do capoeira and lethal weapon. I don't know what's
Fair
wrong
enough.
with that. It's an
Fair
actual
enough.
fighting style.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess you can bring like a black taekwondo guy instead of.
Billy Blanks.
You can
Billy
bring
Blanks is out there doing
Bruce
Taibo.
Leroy. Bruce Leroy from
Right,
The
you get
Last
Buster
Dragon.
Rhymes for that. Don't you remember Buster
Oh,
Rhymes
yeah.
watching the original Wu-Tang movies and Halloween Resurrection, practicing in
Hell
his
yeah.
hotel
yeah.
room? That could
You
be
got
great.
shown enough.
All right, so
with
we
his
have
crew.
Johnny Galecki and Buster Rhymes is the Lethal Weapon movie. But Buster Rhymes
but it has
now.
to be
Thick Buster
but it-
Rhymes.
thick Buster Rhymes, but it's set in the 2005, so it has all the humor and everything, like technology and everything from that
Hell
time.
yeah. Yes.
But with them now,
Mm.
so it's just thick Buster Rhymes and now Johnny Galecki. So,
Yeah.
he doesn't have to care because he's a zillionaire.
I think one of the defining genres of the aughts is actually like the it's not buddy cop comedy, but just buddy comedy, because you have a lot of movies like that. You know what I watched recently is All About the Benjamins, where they were just deciding to give Ice Cube and Mike Epps random movies because they couldn't do Friday for some reason.
Yeah.
That movie's not particularly good, but it's amusing enough,
They also had the black lady and white guy trope.
No, that's
movie
what they're
with their
doing now. That's Ed
partners.
Helms and Monique on Netflix right now. What was that movie?
No,
you
what
brought
was
up?
that? Taxi with
Taxi was
Oh,
one
Jimmy
with
Fallon and Queen Latifah.
Queen Latifah.
Fred Willard had one with. Oh no, that one was Samuel
With
L. Jackson,
also-
I think.
Oh, okay. You
It
had
was
Eugene
called, hold
Levy
on.
and Queen Latifah.
Eugene
as
Levy,
well,
that's the one. No, Fred
and
Willard,
Steve
it's the same
Martin
person.
and Queen Latifah. Queen Latifah was getting all kinds of work.
As that character, the sassy black partner
Queen
of a
Latifah was
nerdy
getting
white
all
guy.
kinds of work. That sounds like a black dude saying that this lady's got a fat ass. Damn, she getting all kinds of work back there. Home.
She went from being the lesbian that for whatever reason Will Smith wants to fuck in French Prince, which was like the most unbelievable part of that whole series. And he like falls in love for her and he's like, really? She's bigger than you, dude. Like, what are you doing? And then now, like a partner. What is he? What stage of her career is Queen Latifah?
She's
going through
she's
now?
the equalizer now. She got
she's
she
the
replaced
Equalizer.
Denzel for the CBS show.
Oh shit! Oh wow.
That-
Okay.
I guess that has good TV ratings for whatever TV ratings are. I guess it's a quote unquote popular show. I can't tell you what that means on television, but that's
That's one of those
what they
series
say.
they decided to bring back, kind of Miami, not Miami Vice. What was it Hawaii 5-0 and Magnum PI style, where they have the property, they're not doing anything with it. It's probably better to reboot that than to create a brand new series from scratch using some actors that are familiar with people. That's a very cute look, Jerry. For
You guys can see that. Oh, I didn't know you guys could see that.
Jerry's just getting familiar with Zoom for the first time, folks. For those watching the video here, you're in for a treat.
You should have just left
Awesome.
him,
Awesome.
not knowing, and just have him make a point with his bunny ears.
I've been playing with all of these features right here, just trying to get a picture to show up on the fucking background. I had no idea every single person.
It's the little plus sign on top. There's a little plus sign on top, and you can add.
I did that, but it won't accept any images. This software hates me, dude.
Well,
It's not important. We're on a show. We're talking about Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
Now, I actually was the one that suggested this because, more or less because I wanted to talk about the concept of the buddy cop film and sort of like the death of it as we are in the modern age of film. It feels more like two people. I mean, it's the same with comedy. It feels more like two people just feeding off of each other and creating an atmosphere. It is essentially dead. I mean, even buddy road trip films, you don't see those ever. Not to say they're like fucking great, you know what I mean? But I feel like this concept of Lethal Weapon is not something that they actually do now. This template where you take the two polar opposites and sort of make them work together, but it's solely them. There's not a bunch of other pieces around them. Most people couldn't tell you other characters from Lethal Weapon than Riggs and Murtaugh. And like that's the same with like Beverly Hills Cop. You essentially latch into the two characters, right? And then for that period, that's what you're thinking is their character development and not how the other people help them do it. Everything now feels like a one-off of the Avengers.
Oh yeah, and I mean that's what absorbed that genre. And I think you can point to Iron Man 3, which Shane Black directed, as the first instance of that, or at least the first very transparent instance of that, where you're using Robert Downey Jr. and Don Cheadle's characters in that franchise to produce what feels a lot like a Lethal Weapon or Nice Guys style movie. I mean, the Nice Guys really is kind of the end of that era because
Yeah.
I don't believe that movie performed well at the box office. I know that they were thinking about rebooting that with women for a TV show, and also around that time, you have the Melissa McCarthy, Sandra Bullock, like female version of that. So it all
Oh
comes
yeah.
to a head in 2016 or so, and bottoms out. I think. Now I think you're exclusively finding all sorts of comedies previously folded up into Disney Marvel properties, which we've talked about at length. It's not really an interesting subject at this point, but I think it's very relevant to the trajectory of what does, I guess, start with Lethal Weapon. Or maybe you could point back to like TV shows like I Spy, where you have, I think, Robert Culp and Bill Cosby, and Miami Vice, which isn't really a humorous show. As a matter of fact, um, those characters, by comparison to the characters in Lethal Weapon, aren't as fun or as dynamic. But it is a quality series, of course. I've got it right here behind me, the entire series. Um,
See, a great example of that too on like a modern-ish property is something like Burn Notice, where you have a main character as Michael Weston, who's the main
ah,
spy.
right.
Then he has a sidekick who's his girlfriend, who at first is like an enemy, but then she becomes like the partner. And then you have the older character, Bruce Camp, Bruce Camp, Bruce Campbell, that is, like the quippy and like the one that helps him accomplish everything that he needs to accomplish. I think that was, he ran for like 7 seasons, and he was.
How many different properties have we like bits of content have we made with Hans where he brings up fucking Bird Notice? Like it's been on Civic TV. It's been he brought up Bird Notice on my podcast. He brought up Bird Notice, I think, almost every time we've been here on this podcast together. The guy just fucking loves Bird Notice.
I think there's a
You know,
picture in our group chat of him like holding the entire series on DVD.
you know those girls
Yeah.
that make like The Office their entire identity? It's that, but it's Bird Notice.
It's a shame that show was before memes. Otherwise, I have a folder full of just them looking stoic, and then just, I don't know, something
Like
quippy.
impact font on the bottom.
Yeah.
But you're not wrong. So sort of like entourages are like everything now, right? Like entourage films are all over the place, and there's so many different aspects of even the lone wolf or the buddy setup that are just sort of like taken out and gone. Remember before things like Lethal Weapon, things like Die Hard, a lot of those films were based around a core incident that was going to happen. One thing, we're going to blow up this building, we're going to blow up this city block, we're going to rob a bank truck, or whatever the fuck it is, and it was a lot more contained. You can imagine a dude 30 miles away has no fucking idea what's going on.
Right.
This dude, not a hero to me, just some random fucking cops, some dumb bullshit. Shadow organization, right? Nobody knows about it. Now it's very much like, oh, fucking super core, the massive conglomerate that everybody knows about is doing this thing. There's a mega bad guy. There's not a secret syndicate with, levels and different things like that and complexity. It's just there's a bad guy. He has goons. You have to go through the goons to get to the bad guy, and then there's a standoff with the bad guy, and it's over. Like I get that I'll probably give Snowpiercer a lot of credit for using that formula in its setting, but at the same time, when you take that formula and you keep inserting it into the modern action over and over and over with the entourage thing, it's just to me, I look back to things even when we were talking about Heat not too long ago, like just one thing going on in one location is so much more interesting than this global fucking like these Mission Impossible films where you got to start in China and then you got to go. Now you're in South Africa and now you're in
it's like a beat
fucking
'em up.
England.
It's like a beat 'em up arcade game, right? You
Right.
start in one place and you have a mission and you have a team, but they don't all fight at the same time because it will be too easy. So it's just one or two at a time, and they all have different missions. And yeah, you have to go through henchmen, and then the more you move forward, the stronger they become, and then you get to the boss, and the boss at the end is not even that complicated to beat. So it's very much just that same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and when you look back at films like, I mean, well, we're talking about Lethal Weapon. When you look back at films like Lethal Weapon, you get characters that feel rooted in reality. Their backgrounds are like, I fought in Vietnam. I'm a 30-year fucking cop veteran or whatever it is, and they have their own complexities based on that. And it's not this sort of this thing where it's like, well, I'm just goofy and I just like to bend the rules. They have reasons for being the complex characters they are.
It's also a cheat, right? Because when you have a group of more than four, you don't really have to spend that much time developing their personalities because there's so many that you can just show them doing something different, and that's enough, or at least they think that's enough. Instead of something like Lethal Weapon, where at the beginning our main character, he lives in like a shitty mobile home in like a shitty part of town, and he is putting a bullet into a gun because he wants to shoot himself. Like that's our first image of our hero. He's just in his shitty house, and that has so much depth that is usually not added into newer properties because they spend more time just creating a team around them and the banter between them, and not enough on just showing us who the character is, which is why it's more difficult to connect with them. Or
Just
even
like when Stone Cold was holding the butterfly in the prison cell,
exactly,
and it was ready to fly off.
Yeah,
Tells you everything you need to know about the character.
True.
I mean, that's a little better than, if the team shows up and they're just like, yeah, he's the blah 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 and he killed so many blah blah blah, and they just tell you, which is what they do now, is just show me them doing something instead.
Yeah, well, they do that
narrated
montage thing now, right? Where everybody's in the room and it's like Davis, security ops, and then they like show him doing a double backflip. Remember fucking Ocean's 11 set that up where it was like every time they got to a new person that they were going to recruit, it would show them doing their fucking wicked skill right there in front of the people.
Oh,
now they just straight up tell you. They just tell you Chun-Li, the kicking cop, and you're like, okay, cool.
Well, I think someone that was able to do the buddy cop or buddy guy, I guess, what do you want to call it, the buddy, the friend,
the buddy
comedy-ish, it's Edgar Wright with that trilogy, with the Cornetto trilogy, because even though he was mocking the genres that he was doing, like the relationship between the two characters was still the most important thing in the movie and what drove it forward, really. And I still think that those three movies hold up, still really well done and still funny. So that one, I don't think it's mentioned enough when it comes to this subgenre of action, I guess.
Yeah, Hot Fuzz might be, I mean, and especially for like in the UK where that's even rarer of a genre to be employed, might be an exception to that. That's a good comedy that still I think also holds up to this day.
Well, even I mean, when we talk about maybe like the issue of entourages in a lot of modern action, when you look at, we'll say Shaun of the Dead, before that, they do have that entourage, but it's based around the buddies, right? The conflict that happens solely happens because of the way those two interact with each other. If Nick Frost just shuts up, they just go get his fucking mom and dad, and then they go like to the place or whatever. If Simon Pegg just chills the fuck out, he could just probably bang the chick that he wants to bang. But the two of them bouncing off each other, one making the other one more neurotic, the other one being complacent, and this one's bad decisions, makes the story roll on. And you're like, that's the conflict of friendship that you fucking want. Yeah, I feel like what we got in something like Nice Guys, even like we were talking about Nice Guys earlier, it feels very like vintage, right? Like the format feels old now, and old and good. Like I want to see these two bounce off each other and sort of force each other into weird situations. I understand that it's going to come with a very cliche, fuck you, you did this to me, no, fuck you. And then they go their separate ways. But at the same time, it's like I would rather get that from two people that I really like than say five people all at the same time doing the exact same thing and needing to spider web back together.
Yeah, then you
I
just have a montage of all of them being sad by themselves. And then
well,
just like trying to doing a thing that they used to do the other, and then they're just not there, and it's just
probably
that
like
moment.
2 years ago, 3 years ago, Jake and I did a show on Hear No Evil, See No Evil, and we're talking about the Richard Pryor Gene Wilder combination being a fucking underused and like I mean iconic fucking duo, and I feel like those things got tapped into at different periods and we lost out on a lot of good opportunities, and now that those formats are essentially dying, the only way to get them is to do like aesthetic based films. Like when we were talking about Nice Guys, it takes place right not now, and that's probably a better idea to make things just not happen in current year if you're going to do this combination, because audiences are primed to just all they want that 5, 6, 7 character fucking thing. Like you watch Fast and the Furious, and the thing people care about is like, oh, that's Han. I can't wait to see side character number 18. Like that, there, everybody has a favorite side character or whatever. Like it's Dragon Ball Z. When the reality
It's
is,
about family, Jay. It's about family.
it's about family. The reality is, I think that if you do something set in even like 1995 and you do something similar to Bad Boys, but you make it now, it's gonna be fucking fire. Just because like we're waiting for something good.
Well,
like
hold
we're
on. They
waiting for
did
that
do
template.
Bad Boys again recently. How did that fare? I mean, actually, that might
It's
not be a
it's
fair question because I think it dropped in 2020 when everything was shut down, right?
well, it's a mixture of one of those things where it's like it's a not horrible 20-year-old fucking sequel or whatever, but it doesn't do anything. Like it's no new content from Bad Boys. It's remember this joke from Bad Boys, remember this joke from Bad Boys, remember this joke from Bad Boys 2, and you're like, yeah, I remember those jokes. Could you do new ones? No, no, no. I'm
Yeah.
just asking you if you remember these old ones. Okay, the movie's over now. And I mean, so it's always going to be unfair to say, well, just do this template. It's going to be good, because obviously when that template's done, it needs to be executed a certain way. But I would
That's why
like
I've
for people to
never.
take from that template and execute it better.
That's why I'm never excited about those sequels that come out so long after, because it seems like they always just fall into that. Like they don't try to come up with more creative ways of maybe doing the same type of joke,
The
but
the only
update it. But
one
instead,
that I can think of that tried to do something different was Train Spotting 2. And
Mhm.
even that kind of taps into certain things about that original movie, but then takes the plot in a completely different direction and offers a very different outcome and trajectory for many of those characters. Otherwise, you're looking at a Dumb and Dumber 2 situation or Zoolander 2 situation or Anchorman
Joe
2.
Dirt.
Or Anchorman.
Well, I did,
Yeah.
you watched Joe Dirt too?
No, no, but I'm sure. I'm sure that's
You're
what it
sure,
comes
Probably the
huh?
to.
same. It's
You know
probably
what?
the
Yeah.
same.
I think we got an episode on Joe Dirt 2 coming up. That's what I think. If you
Mm,
want to put your money where your mouth is, Hans.
I don't. I don't want to now. I think. Yeah,
Well,
all of these. Well, Bill and Ted was another one that was kind of like,
you're right.
okay,
Yeah.
cool, but it's still the same type of jokes without any,
Well,
updating or
I
anything.
thought the whole Bill and Ted thing, like for being bad, it felt more like, hey, guess what? We're gonna do more of these, but it's gonna be the girls. We're gonna do a TV show or something, but it's gonna be with the girls. It felt like a setup for more shit, but then it's like it's not good enough for that. I don't. It's not good enough to be a setup for more shit, but it feels like that's what they wanted.
Well, that's what they're all doing, right? With those franchises that they think they can milk. It's just like, let's set up a universe with it. And it's like, not everything needs to have a universe. Not everything is interesting enough to have a universe of it. Sometimes it's just a condensed story of two characters or a group of characters, whatever. It should end there and that's it. Like, I would prefer for them to plan a good movie instead of let's make a movie that's gonna set up something else if it is successful, like with Mortal Kombat or things that were just like, give me a fucking movie. I don't
Yeah,
need a
don't
setup.
tease
Mhm.
Johnny Cage. Just give me Johnny Cage.
Just give me
Yeah.
Johnny
Let's live
Cage.
for the moment.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Otherwise, you wind up with a bunch of actors posing for a photo for 70 films that will never be released or come out or be put into production, just like the Dark Universe, the Monster Universe at Universal
Yeah.
Pictures, which is obviously very unfortunate. We could have had Johnny Depp's Invisible Man or something by now. Anyway, let's talk a little bit more about Lethal Weapon, because I think this is one of the hallmark action films of the 1980s. I think it's very well directed by Richard Donner and avoids falling into the same mold that 48 Hours created in maybe 1980 or 81, where you have, all right, we got the white cop, we got the black. Well, he's not a cop in 48 Hours, he's a convict, but he's essentially serving as a cop for the duration of the film. You have obstacles to overcome. It's a bit of an adventure. And they also flip it, I think, from 48 Hours, where Nick Nolte is like the old curmudgeon, and Eddie Murphy's like the wild, hip, crazy, youthful guy. That's more Mel Gibson here, although they take it in a dark direction with him being suicidal because his wife is dead. And Danny Glover is like, he's just very tired. He's got a family. Yeah.
Well, those are
Go
But-
on.
okay. Well, those are like complexities, right? That you as the viewer, you have to sort of suss out the reasons why they're doing the stuff in most film. Like, why does this guy act this way? And they give you very clear reasoning. Like, if this dude is fucked up, his wife is dead, he's a Vietnam War vet. Like, these guys have enough going on that their pairing would probably be a terrible idea in you know what I mean, in the real world.
Real life.
But in like this action movie setting, neither one of these guys should be the type of person that would be able to take on that other person's emotions and like empathize with them, because they have enough on their fucking plate, and they do, and they have one of, like, I think the best bonds in film history. Whenever it's like, well, Lethal Weapon 4 and Mel Gibson showing up to Danny Glover's granddaughter's wedding, and he's like part of the family, and it's fucking beautiful. You love it because you watched them grow and like create that buddy bond. It's one of it executes it probably better than like any other film, I want to say. Well,
I would agree with that, and I think it helps that these two actors also genuinely liked each other, which is not the case with your background, Hans. Damon Wayans fucking hated that guy and petitioned for him to be fired and used every opportunity he could to make sure that man got fired. Now, also, it doesn't seem like Don Johnson and his partner back here were really that friendly. And throughout Miami Vice, you kind of see the partner getting weeded out of the situation, and it becomes the Don Johnson show.
Yeah. I was going to say that something that I noticed at the beginning of the movie is just a very simple and quick way that the two characters were set up before they even met with each other, which is, the first shot initially, which just sets up the tone for the movie perfectly, of the girl that just jumps out of the balcony and falls POV into the car. And then we set up what's Riggs, right?
Yep.
That's his name, Riggs.
Riggs and Murtaugh.
As this guy that's living in this shitty house, wanting to kill himself. His life sucks. He wakes up and he's just like, fuck, like I hate my life. And then you have Murtaugh, or however you say the name, and he's taking a bath. And his family come into the bathroom and they're just like, "Oh, we love you, Dad."
Isn't
and
it
we
happy
love
Do you ever do that
If
for
they
your
say
dad,
happy
Hans?
birthday?
Do you ever just surprise
Yeah.
your dad in the bathtub?
Yeah, I would sit in front of him and just tell him stories.
Do you sit on the edge of the bathtub and sing to him?
Yeah, just touch knees together. No, but that's a perfect and very quick, easy way to set up the huge difference between them two. So then once they come against each other or interact for the first time, the way they react to each other, you understand it immediately because they come from completely different life situations. So those very simple, 2 minutes maybe that you spend with each set up their relationship immediately by the time they meet up, so everything makes sense, and even the way that they grow with each other makes sense. Now I feel like everything is so rushed that things like those 2 minutes are not appreciated enough, because they make you care for the characters, and it just takes nothing
So
to do it. Like,
this
just a little bit
what
of effort.
what you're discussing right now is actually something completely separate that I think I've observed with a lot of modern films, which is that big movies are kind of they seem to be afraid to add any scenes that do not directly tie into the plot. Like what you're talking about are big character building moments that are relevant to the story, but maybe don't serve a function to the plot and where these characters are going to wind up going because they have a problem they're trying to solve. You don't see that too often. It's usually, all right, we're going to hop into what the primary issue is here within the first 15 to 20 minutes. And then everything that you learn about these characters is going to happen throughout that task that they are trying to fulfill.
All the skills are related to the thing that they wanted to do. Yeah.
Well, what I was gonna say about character development and like Murtaugh is like 50 and a homicide detective. That's like one of the hardest cop jobs to have because it's constant interactions with, I mean, murder, you know what I mean, and murderers and solving those cases. And like having him wrapped into a situation that isn't just paperwork, that isn't regular, just sit down, who did you see on these days and regular interrogations, but like needing to stop a guy who's also kidnapped a member of his family, fucking will torture his partner, you know what I mean, with a partner he doesn't even like it's fucking insane for like a homicide detective. And this other dude's just a drunk, like you know what I mean, sad boy cop. Yeah. And otherwise would just be fucked up, but like he's now also roped into a situation where the gravity is much higher than the two of them, but still much smaller than the whole world or the whole city. It's like his very self-contained story that I think one of the things that makes it so good to go back to now, practical effects and all that shit, is revisiting that particular character development style, where it's dark. Both characters have dark backgrounds, and there's not really as many like happy-go-lucky, everybody sucking each other's dicks moments like a lot of other films do.
What did you guys think of the subdued Gary Busey as the antagonist of this movie?
Isn't it pre-brain injury Gary Busey?
I don't think so. I think his brain injury might have been 86, and well, actually, I guess technically he could have shot it before that. It was fairly late in the 80s that Lethal Weapon came out, though, didn't it? I believe it was 87.
Yeah, 87.
And I think his brain injury happened in the early to mid
84. I mean, 88,
Oh, yeah.
88.
Oh, 88.
Okay.
So it's just before. That's probably why it feels subdued.
Yeah. We still have Buddy Holly, Gary Busey, not I'm.
Yeah. He looks. That's what I was telling. I was
not
telling
Celebrity
LowRes
Apprentice Busey.
Before we started recording that it's weird to see human Gary Busey where he looks like a just regular person that's not just grinning and wide-eyed and just gigantic, like even his teeth look normal. Yeah.
But hold on. Well, before we started this call and before Jerry hopped on the line, we were looking into Predator 2, where he is one of the main characters of that film, and you said he seemed normal in that movie. Now, I've been under the impression for a little bit that it wasn't the brain injury that got him acting up, that it was the cocaine abuse that resulted in Gary Busey being the Gary Busey of today.
Yes?
I don't know. Let me see.
Is that the answer?
Because I've also seen an interview with him, I think on David Letterman and Johnny Carson, one of the talk show hosts of the 80s, after that incident occurred on his motorcycle where he crashed it. And he seems very functional and normal. Now, he is an actor, so...
Right. He may have been acting normal. Yeah, I don't know if that's how brain injury totally works, but maybe.
I don't know.
It's possible. It's possible.
I mean, I think it's just bad acting. I just looked at a scene and it's just bad acting. I don't know if it's just him being being brain damaged, but it's not good.
What were you
It's
going
not
to say? What were
good.
you going to say? Because being a freak, being brain damaged, you caught yourself saying
Yeah.
something,
I
but
don't
I
want to
can't.
call him a freak. He's not
Oh,
a
you were gonna
freak.
call him a freak?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's not a freak. He's just brain damaged, you know.
He's a
That's
brain
why
damaged elderly man.
Yeah.
Hans
So
is
that's why I
capping on it.
stopped myself. Yeah.
I'll tell you what,
Oh,
that
shit.
brain damaged elderly man won a season of Celebrity Big Brother. So you think about that. Just how freakish could he be?
You know
So
what? You're
you know
right.
what? I'll fight him. I'll box him.
Celebrity
Sign
boxing.
Yeah, I'll celebrity box Gary Busey. One thing that I really enjoyed about this movie that I forgot about is how much saxophone music there is in it. In
Hell
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
every scene is
Hell
just like
yeah,
an erotic sax in the background and everything. It's great. It's good. It's another
What?
thing that you don't really like. It's very of the time. Very like
Very
and
steamy
I don't know if it's just
Showtime made for TV
yeah.
Skinamax movie.
And
Hell
it's
yeah,
weird to
dude.
see that in like a blockbuster movie, right? Where it's like the very dramatic scenes, like where he's with the gun, and it's just a very intense saxophone player playing in the background. It's great.
I love that shit. Like fucking, that's such a dead aesthetic, dude. It's such a fucking dead aesthetic, and I fucking love every bit of it. Like, we were talking about this on Civic TV. This sort of like steamy streets, grimy, fucking 1980s inner city look. That meshed with some badass saxophone and like I don't know
Yeah.
purple neon lights. Like that's the shit right there. Fucking make
Yeah.
that movie 1,000 times. Don't even have dialogue. I don't even care. Just like
Just visual,
cinema
yeah.
verite, just show that. I'll watch it.
Yeah,
Just
you can
B-roll of that.
smell it. Yeah.
Yeah. Show me a crackhead shooting up under some great ambient light and some badass sax. I'm cool, dude.
Yeah. And it's always a little jarring because of that. You know that whenever you see a blockbuster, that's not really what you hear. Even like orchestra music, I think that's not really used anymore.
Mhm.
Like it's very modern now, and that sucks. Like I feel like this gives it such a bigger feeling to the movie, even if it's not like a huge movie. Having something like that, maybe not the saxophone, but having like the orchestra or like something like that
Yeah.
on a movie like this is just like it makes it sound like a bigger thing than what actually is. Cute legs.
Well, all right. So to speak about soundtracks, like one of my favorite soundtracks in any film is a soundtrack to The Rock, the Sean Connery Nicolas Cage movie about breaking into Alcatraz, and that's because it's like Hans Zimmer, right? And it's just fucking over the top, dude. It's so hardcore. It's more fit for like a medieval war movie or Lord of the Rings or some shit. But it's like Sean Connery crawling through a fucking sewer. Some 80-year-old Scottish dude just like crawling on all fours. They in quiet would just sound like squish, 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 squish. But instead it's dun, 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 like it's fucking huge on top of it. And I kind of miss listening to soundtracks like that, like hearing the scene when you hear the song. I feel like Lethal Weapon is one of those things where if you put on the soundtrack, you could just imagine any scene in Lethal Weapon. You'd be wrong about the timestamp, but you could still see Lethal Weapon. Perfect.
That's kind of interesting that the maximalist action film did wind up, I think, crushing what Lethal Weapon's genre was, which was kind of more laid back. I mean, it was a blockbuster, it was big, it was explosive for the time, but you do get wiped out by the Michael Bay types around that late 90s era with movies like The Rock and Con Air and Bad Boys.
Yep. Well, you know what? Planes, right? Fucking. Well, now you can blow up a plane. It doesn't cost nearly as much in 1997 than it did in fucking 1987 to blow up a plane for your action film. Now shit gets bigger. You know what I mean? Now you get a fucking big ass, because all those movies have big ass planes in them.
Yeah, you can explode helicopters and shit.
Michael Bay.
Doesn't matter.
So I know I was saying like, oh, I love self-contained film, but the Rock is so fucking good because it starts out, there's a special forces team that got a super fucking chemical that they're gonna fucking release into the city or some shit, and they broke into fucking Alcatraz. Another special forces team is gonna have to break in there. Everybody's dead. Now it's just the old dude and like the computer guy, and he's got to save the day. Oh shit, he's dying from the thing. He's got to stab himself in the fucking heart. Now he's got to go outside. That's my favorite fucking part in almost any action film. When he goes outside, he's got to tell the jets to not blow up Alcatraz and kill him because he's saved the day already. And he goes, he's all fucked up. He throws the flares. He's like, ah! And the fucking jets are like there. So jets move very quickly, hundreds of miles an hour. This didn't have time to like circumvent Alcatraz, run upstairs, and click flares. And the last second that he starts doing this, the fucking jets fly by and are like, oh, don't bomb him. It's such a hype, over the top moment that is stupid as fuck. And like I get that that's the template for what we have now in action, but god damn it, dude, when you revisit like things like The Rock, like 1997, 1995 action, it's always like, oh fuck yeah, that's a huge ass gunfight. Oh my god, everybody's dead. Fuck yes. Like
yeah, they loved spending money in the 90s. That's one of the biggest things. Con Air, similar to that, is just amazing. Speed, yeah, no, Speed falls into that category, definitely.
Speed is fucking good, dude. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, fucking, so like, all right, well, this is a bit of a tangent, but the natural evolution of these films meant that things like Die Hard, or this genre, meant that these films like Die Hard and Lethal Weapon had to eventually fit the mold. So you had now 60-year-old Danny Glover and 53-year-old fucking Mel Gibson fighting like 30-year-old Jet Li in Lethal Weapon 4.
Well, that's what I wanted to say, is doesn't Lethal Weapon kind of succumb to the mold that we're griping about today, where it's a team? Because in the second movie, they introduced Joe Pesci's character, and he's just kind of a supporting character, but by the third one, they start marketing him like he's part of that team, and it becomes a trio. He's in the middle, he's got fake hands on them, and his eyes are like that on the poster. And he's really annoying too. This is really Joe Pesci at his worst in these movies. He just recites the same catchphrases over and over. It sucks.
I agree. As I was mentioning earlier, in Burn Notice, it happens like that too, where you have two main characters at first, and then you start adding people to the group that become permanent characters. So I guess everything that, it starts
the Jim Norton
role.
It just that's what happens. Yeah.
So all right, if this motherfucker is gonna mention Bird Notice 2 times in one episode, I'm gonna say the thing I haven't said the whole time. I loved TV shows that were built like this, right? So like Xena, Hercules, like those 2 films where it's like, these are your 2 characters. Sometimes the side character's fucking gone, but these are the 2 characters. They're the dumbest roles together. They shouldn't be together at all, but we're just gonna do it, and we're gonna throw a new scenario at them every day. I would eat that shit up right now if they kept doing stuff like that. And like, if you're gonna put TV on and it's just 2 people in hijinks, and I don't care when it is, I'm down with it.
Do you mean like when they just solve like a thing, episode just contain episode, every episode is a story?
Yeah, X-Files was the same way. Yeah, well, I know, that's why I was bringing up fucking Hercules, because I'm like, if this motherfucker's gonna talk about his shit, I'm gonna talk about my shit. But now
you want procedural. That's NCIS, that's CSI, that's every show.
But that's the thing, is that those shows, you have to know every character to follow along with like what's going on. So my fiance really like Criminal Minds, right? And sure, okay, I could watch it, I enjoyed it, but I had no idea what the fuck was going on that was like the continuous story, like the A plot that the whole show is based on. I have no fucking idea. Find the serial killer with your cool skills, rad. All this other shit, I cannot keep up with it. I get that the criticism from like the average person is like, well, you watched every episode of Game of Thrones and know all the lore, but that's completely different, because that show is like an involved show and not a self-contained monster of the week type thing, right? When you get a monster of the week type thing, you want X-Files, right? If you have to deal with a new story every week, I just want to see 2 people doing it. I don't want to fight through understanding all these other different connections and who's married to who. And now this guy left the fucking show, so we're gonna bring in a different dude that does the same thing, that is the same character, but he's got a different name because it's not the same character, but he's the same archetype. I don't give a fuck about that. I don't give a fuck about that. And so this buddy concept, I said this is a bit of a tangent. This buddy concept is like lost on TV as well. And it's, I mean, we get to like the Lethal Weapon TV show where they have the same thing in it, where there's all these other people that like help them do things in these scenarios. And it's like it's not really Lethal Weapon. So they also succumb not just to the 90s the 90s action, but remember Die Hard fucking 17 or whatever it is had a 60-year-old Bruce Willis jumping out of a helicopter onto a jet as the jet went by, and then off of that into a car. Like, it's way out of fucking whack with the actual original versions of these movies are. But they have to do it if they want to keep people, I guess, going back to watch those original two, because they just get lost. They just get lost otherwise.
You should watch Suits, Jerry.
I haven't seen Suits.
I love that. That's your big takeaway from
should
his
watch
spiel.
Suits.
Just there is, you should watch Suits.
Suits, yeah, it's every story is very contained. There's like an underlying story about him being caught up as like not a real lawyer, but it
I
doesn't
hate that
really
guy's
matter
moles.
that-
That dude has some disgusting moles all over his face. It's
Wait.
really gross. It makes that show
What dude?
the
unwatchable.
main guy, yeah, Gabriel.
He's got
something, I don't know
moles
what his name is.
All down his
Max
face.
or something like that. Yeah,
I can't take that
he's the
man
main guy
seriously.
in Suits. Suits was another show that I watched for way too long. I think it's still going, but I watched like 7 seasons of it or 6 seasons of it, and I was like, why am I still? Why? It's just, oh, it's a new season, cool. And then I would start watching it and I'd just be like, this is really bad. Like, this is really dumb. Why am I still watching it? But did you see him, Gabriel Max?
I see him, and I'm just what sucks is the joke in my head is like the second or third Austin Powers, where I'm thinking of LowRes just being like, Mole, oh hey, how are you doing, Mole, over and
Mole,
over,
mole,
just
mole.
saying.
Yeah.
He meets him, and he every time he goes to speak to this actor, he's like, oh, my name's Gabriel Macht, I'm gonna get you a show on fucking NBC, LowRes. It's a pleasure meeting you. And you're like, oh yeah, it's a pleasure moling you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's disgusting.
Yeah. This is an anti-mole podcast. Let me cover mine. Yes, I do have a gross mole.
You're gonna have to get that removed if we do any sequels to Mass State Lottery. You know, like Tom Holland, he had a real thick mole on his nose that he got removed to play Spider-Man, which was the right move.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Absolutely.
Well, I used to scratch it off when I was a little boy, but it just keeps
It
coming.
just comes back
so-
bigger each time.
Yeah,
That's not a mole. That's
Yeah.
a tumor, Hans. That's
it's facial cancer. You know, it's karma for making fun of fucking Roger Ebert's goofy face so many
Right.
times.
Well, okay, so the one last, I guess, little point on this kind of like tangent that I was running on is that one of the problems with entourage settings nowadays, which I guess is the thing I'm going to be talking about the whole fucking time, I'll get off of this, is that everybody requires a massive paycheck, right? Because they're all kind of, they feel like they're a part of the main cast, right? So they all require a larger paycheck than if you just had two people and filling this role. And that then creates different pods of friendships, right? Different levels of chemistry between different people in your entire cast. Where when you have Lethal Weapon, Mel Gibson and Danny Glover trained together for 2 months every day in martial arts with like fucking Hoy and Gracie and shit. Like, they spent their time together for 2 months, just two dudes, right? Whether it was every day or whether it was for fucking 2 hours every other day, they were around each other a lot before shooting the film. So by the time, whether they already had some natural chemistry or not, because that's how you cast films, by the time they actually on set with each other, they're fucking homies, and they understand each other's range. They understand the yes and they need to do whenever they're doing their own little improv scene. They understand how to let somebody execute their line when the good cutoff point is. Like, they know each other really well. So the on-screen chemistry, I mean, yeah, I said this before, sure, you can just cast a buddy film and put it out there, but you get to a point where maybe the economy behind acting right now and the way things are cast means that you can't really get that real buddy chemistry like that as you could 1986 getting fucking Danny Glover and Mel Gibson together. I think it's a lot different and a lot harder.
Definitely, definitely agree. What do you guys think that any of the sequels are worthwhile? Because I would probably say that the second Lethal Weapon film is pretty close in terms of quality to that first movie, and then 3 they kind of lose me, and then by 4 I'm enjoying it, but it doesn't feel like, because of what you were saying, they have to update the the software, I guess, to fit the modern era. And then all of a sudden you have Chris Rock cracking jokes, and you do have Jet Li as the bad guy, and I don't know. It
You had a
starts to
girl,
feel
right? Don't they add a girl?
well. Rene Russo is introduced in the third movie, and she is a member of their team or whatever by the fourth movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a fourth, but just by seeing the cover where there's like a girl in the cover, it's like this girl was not in this before, so it's like very Karate Kid 4 or 3.
Well,
Is
no,
it
she
3
doesn't
with
replace one of the cops. She's just there. She's just love interest
in the show.
What's the third
movie.
with what's her name? Boys Don't Cry. Bringing it
Hilary
back to Boys
Swank?
Don't Cry. Elizabeth. Yeah.
Well, hold on.
Hilary
What
Swank
were you gonna say?
in the
Lisa
next
Vanderpump?
Karate
Who
Kid?
who are you gonna say?
Wait,
Elizabeth.
yeah, what is
Elizabeth
that?
something. I don't know.
Elizabeth Taylor? What?
Elizabeth. Yeah, that's a Karate Kid 3.
When we talk about like Lethal Weapon 3 and 4, I think like the Joe Pesci aesthetic or involvement gets really hard to bear, especially if you like coming out of the first one and then into the second one and then by the third one or the fourth one. But they do also add like they changed the dynamic between the two characters to make it feel significantly more generic when the conflict comes between them later on, because they had constant conflict in Lethal Weapon and in Lethal Weapon 2. Like, even though they had rounded out a lot of their issues together, it still mounted in different ways. They still had new pressures to put on each other. By 4, they're just fucking best friends. There's legitimately nothing they wouldn't know about each other at this point. They are as close as you could possibly fucking be, and there's not really real conflict. It has to happen because of the influence of the plot, right? Because the plot has so and so getting kidnapped and such is happening to so and so. They have beef. But if you took those things out, they wouldn't have any beef. If you just take Lethal Weapon, don't make the big thing happen. Take these two characters, put them in a TV procedural, the exact same two characters. There's still the same drama every time. Still the same drama every time. This new version of them, by 4, it's gone, right? And it's really cut and paste action TV or action movie, circa 1990, whatever, 2000. When did that come out?
1997, I believe it was 98. There is plans for Lethal Weapon 5. With these old ass men, with this 90-year-old director involved, Richard Donner. There's still, as of last year, they said it's going to happen.
Danny, how old is Danny Glover?
Danny Glover's got to be pushing 80, I think.
He's older than 80.
Yeah, he has to be older than 80. He was old in the 80s.
He
was like 60 in the 80s.
Oh my god, he's only 74?
Yeah, he's not that old.
He's like a year older than my dad, and he's like fucked off. He's like all melted.
Mel Gibson?
Mel Gibson is probably in his mid 60s. I would guess.
Yeah, 65.
And Richard Donner. Look up Richard Donner's age. Again, Richard Donner's still saying he's going to direct this movie.
91.
Yeah.
91.
Jesus.
Wow. I mean, what was his last movie? Either?
Hey, Clint Eastwood is working.
Jesus.
Yeah, but he's been working. Donner's last movie is Superman 2. The Donner cut is 2006. Hold on.
Well,
in
that
2006.
Director. That's
all right, 16.
That's a re-edit.
16 blocks.
16 blocks is good though. No, 16 blocks is good.
Bruce Willis. Oh, that's the Mos Def movie.
When was that?
Yeah. 2006. I actually like that shit. And
so he hasn't. he hasn't made movies in 14 years, and
So
he's
he was in
91
his
now. And...
he was in his mid 70s when he made that. I mean,
Damn.
No, no,
Fuck.
but to I mean to cap it, I don't know that a fifth Lethal Weapon movie is gonna feel like Lethal Weapon in the same way that the eighth fucking Die Hard movie didn't feel like the a Die Hard movie. You know, like there's nothing about action now that I think that they wouldn't do that would fit in the Lethal Weapon thing. Like they're gonna blow cars up way too big. You know what I mean? Way too many near death explosions. Way too many fucking fully automatic. I'm hiding behind a door gunshots. You know, it's gonna be lame.
yeah,
Gonna be
I
lame.
mean, look, it's probably not going to be. It's probably not going to happen. I think Richard Donner's going to probably
Who's
croak
gonna
soon,
die?
and that's it. I think it ends with 4. I think it ends with Damon Wayans and Clayton McLean.
Bixby.
I think what's weird is that, and I'm only just learning this now because of the Wikipedia, is that Bruce Willis film called Blind Date, which I don't even really recall, actually usurped Lethal Weapon at the box office after 2 weeks. It's not a big deal, but it's just weird that this particular Bruce Willis movie, where he's like barefoot on the cover of it and covered in shit, but it's not Die Hard, is the movie that was better than Lethal Weapon in the box office at one point.
That's extremely peculiar. Also, Bruce Willis needs to stop showing his feet and everything. What a weird guy.
What is the deal with that?
That's one of the
deal with
big
that?
things of Die Hard is he's barefoot in the
Yeah,
entire
He's
movie,
barefoot.
right?
Yeah.
It's badass.
So-
yeah.
They should have just
I
kept
just,
doing
like,
that with
I-
each movie.
I would be excited about Lethal Weapon 5 if they allow 91-year-old Richard Donner to also write it.
Well, he's no,
no.
he's also
Yes,
talking about
yes.
he's also acting like he's going to direct Goonies 2, which is announced and Corey Feldman is attached. They got
Wow.
him on Zoom.
Wow.
James Corden's show, you know, the James Corden Zoom show where he
Yeah.
brings everyone together cuz quarantine. Yeah, they got him on
Oh,
for
right.
for one of those calls and he's like, "Yep, it's still happening." So you're going to
Oh,
get
God.
sequels to all
Yeah.
your favorite 80s hits directed by a 97-year-old man.
Yeah, because Corey Feldman has never, made himself seem bigger than he is, or lied about his career and things that are happening in his life at all. Ever.
No, it's not. It's
Ever.
Very
not Corey.
truthful.
It's not
It's very
Corey.
truthful.
Richard Donner and Spielberg said they're going to do Goonies 2 with the
Huh.
adult
Wow.
cast.
Wow.
So they're just 50-year-olds in hijinks and adventures
Yeah, what are they?
going
How are
down
they
a
going to
secret
do that?
tunnel.
Oh no, guys, we're in a tree house.
It's adventures in a home for old people. That's what it's gonna be.
They're just like, Jesus Christ, dude, my back is too fucked up to go in this cave and fight these vampires. I'm gonna go have a nap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all visions. Yeah, we just have a lot of very fantastical stories where they're all visions in their own separate
Yeah.
heads.
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, Corey Feldman's fentanyl paranoia. Everybody's fat and tired and laying around, and you have weird, pale, gaunt, baggy-eyed Corey Feldman just hanging out, absorbing
Won't
what
stop
fame he
singing.
can.
Just keep
Ascension
singing those
Millennium,
shitty
yeah.
songs. Yeah, over and can you imagine?
No, he's
Fuck,
gonna
the
show up like
torture
he's
of
gonna show
that.
up dressed as Michael Jackson with the glove and everything, and he'll have the hat as that. He'll incorporate it into the character. It'll be great.
He's gonna put glitter on his walker.
Well,
Yeah.
I you know what? I'm looking forward to Lethal Weapon 5. I think this is a great point to end this show on the death of the buddy cop comedy. So, Jerry, thank you so much for hopping on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Hans,
Do you want to plug stuff?
Plug
We
what?
always do that at the end. Jerry.
You
we
want me
always
to
do it at
plug
the end when
stuff?
No one's listening,
Civic TV
right?
tonight.
I don't know.
Yeah, Civic
yeah.
TV on Headshot LLC or twitch.tv/Headshot LLC. Check that out. That's a fun time. Come through.
And the Sunday School podcast you do with Zombie.
Oh shit, yeah, it's Sunday School with Zombie and Bloom. You can get that on Spotify and anywhere you find podcasts. Listen, if you listen to an episode or something and you think that something I've said is incriminating, don't tell the cops, right? And it's cool. If you don't tell the
same.
cops, it's cool.
Same, because the fucking episode that I did with you is gonna get me murdered by the cartel. We're laughing now. We're laughing now when my fucking the headless body shows up. God damn.
I'm gonna send you guys a picture of Hans's head just crawling across the porch in a on the back of a turtle. Like, hey, sorry about that. Sorry about that one episode.
Fuck. Yeah.
Terrific. Well, that's been movies for today. Thank you for listening.